they're calling illegal immigrants undocumented citizens because they're trying to change the definition of the word. They're going to say things like, my immigrants are citizens. They're going to say, what does citizen even mean? It's a person who lives here. It's a resident of a country. They're citizens. What do you think it means? Blah, blah, blah. Then we're going to come to the point where there will be a lawsuit filed. Take a look at how the Supreme Court handled the gender identity thing. They said, because the Civil Rights Act covers sex as a protected class, gender identity is naturally a component of that. Therefore, gender identity is protected under the Constitution. And then all of these states are passing these bills and these laws, and following it as such. We are going to get to the point where they will say undocumented citizen over and over and over again. Then you'll get Fox News saying it, because they all do this. The AP will say the new guidelines for all reporters to use the phrase undocumented citizen, and then there will be a lawsuit. And it will say it is unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment to deny undocumented citizens the right to vote. And the Supreme Court's going to go, well, it says here, no state shall make or enforce any law which abridges the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. And undocumented citizens are citizens despite not having proper documentation. So therefore, it does follow that we cannot deny undocumented citizens the right to vote. Then what are they going to do? How do you verify the person's an undocumented citizen? They'll have to create something. They'll grant them voting numbers or Social Security numbers for which they can vote. That's a big move they're playing right now. And that's why they try to control language.
Well, you mentioned the AP style guide, Tim, and when you're in journalism school, I went to Syracuse for graduate school, and you're taught that the AP style guide, that's the holy grail. When you were taught to adhere to that, no matter what. But when you look at the AP's reporting, just as an example, a headline from yesterday regarding President Trump stops in Michigan and Wisconsin, the title reads, quote, "What we know, Trump uses death of Michigan woman to stoke fears over immigration." So the AP is supposedly this straight and narrow, non-biased organization, yet I don't know. I watched both of those speeches. I don't think that's the headline to take away.
This is the first I've heard of the Associated Press style book.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So you go to college and then they're like, hey, you're a journalism major.
It's a Bible. It's you were given that and you're learn it, you get quizzed on it, you get tested on it, and you're supposed to use different things, and they alter it from year to year and they update it. And they do things like that, and you were specifically told to adhere to this.
Do they violate their own style book, or do they just change it and then
they change it?
Well, I mean, a headline like this is just editorialized. I mean, it starts off with what we know. Who's we? Like, I mean, why would you have that in a headline? That sounds like an op-ed, you know. But despite whatever goofiness that they inject throughout their updated Bibles, you know, it is still kind of the gold standard for journalism. I mean, it's what I reference all the time. It's what I use to build our own style guide. You just have to make sure that you ignore the stuff that is more editorial and ideologically driven.
Have you noticed a lot of that appearing in the style book in the last decade?
The last copy that I have, I think, is about 4 years old.
Lowercase white and uppercase black.
That was in there.
Yeah,
that was in there.
Like that's how you got to report on those.
When referring to white people, you make it lowercase. When referring to black people, you make it uppercase.
And it's weird.
You capitalize black and why?
I don't know why they capitalize the word God when they type it. Same question. What were you gonna say?
No, literally not.
Well, they're giving reverence to the word. That's what they're doing. They're deifying that word if they're making it capital while you type it.
No,
it's either that or a legal thing.
Because there's the proper and then there's the improper. There's a God and then there's God. They're different things.
But that is interesting.
It's like if a guy's name is John and then someone else is going to meet a prostitute, you don't capitalize a John, but John you do capitalize. That's not reverence. That's a name versus a thing.
But it kind of is a reverential deification move to capitalize the B in black.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting observation.
That is an assertion above. That serves no purpose other than to say white is a generic descriptive term, but black is a special privileged thing.
Does it give it? Oh, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, this is just an aside. This is why it's a nightmare when we're trying to report on something that involves race or racism, and we have to use quotes from progressive goofballs, because their quotes will have black capitalized, and our style guide is like, we're not going to do, black capitalized. So you got this weird juxtaposition where we're not
brackets.
Well, I guess we could, but according to AP style guidelines, and I like this, is that you never alter a quote unless you absolutely must do it for the sake of the reader. So that's why we don't do that.
SIC, meaning that they misspelled it and they misspelled it.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not misspelling it really. It's not an error.
You can put an asterisk and at the bottom put the capitalization is an ideological move made by the left.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, that's true.
Because
Is it true?
Yes,
It is. Yeah. I mean, how else do you justify it? It's not proper English.
No, it's literal. It's literal critical race theory.
Yeah.
Oppressed and oppressors.
Yep. There you
White
go.
must be lowercase, black must be uppercase.
It got into the AP, dude, and that's
Well,
the
of
gold
course.
standard of journalism.
Oh, the AP.
Their style guide is, but their reporting is, gone off the rails like most,
But
news reporting organizations.
there are different ethics in journalism. It's not just the AP style guide. There's SPJ and there's AP and Reuters. I believe they'll have their ethics, don't they? Like
AP style, the style guide that I have does have an ethical section, and a
right,
section
and then
on
but then
ethics.
Reuters has their own ethics,
Probably.
and
Yeah.
then was it the Society for Professional Journalists or something like that? SPJ
Something of the sort.
Probably.
have their own ethics. And the funny thing is, we've been talking about doing this nonprofit for a while, and it's insane to try and run. That's the problem. Like, we're trying to get the filings. The idea for the nonprofit is to create an app that would take a sampling of 100 articles from a news organization, and then have a team of journalists go through those articles, checking for violations of standard journalistic ethics. We would likely use SPJ's ethics. These are things like minimize harm. Okay, I guarantee 80%, okay, I'm exaggerating, but a large portion of articles written by the New York Times maximize harm. So what does it mean to minimize harm? Okay, if there is literally no reason to report a person's name because they're not a public figure, you don't do it. So if there was a news story where it was like there was a criminal trial and there were people who were very upset over what was going on and they were protesting outside. Let's say Ian was there and he was defending the guy who was on trial. Maximizing harm would be to say one individual, Ian Crossland, who resides at this address, was defending this violent criminal, saying that he was innocent, and in shocking statements that offended everybody and detested most decent-hearted Americans. Okay, you're maximizing harm when you're doing that. You don't need to tell anybody the guy's name or where he lives. When CNN threatened that guy who made the CNN meme with Trump, that if he kept doing this, they'd dox him. That's like beyond maximizing harm. That is like outright directly threatening a person. So the idea we had was, if we went through for factual errors, inserting opinion, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things, and failure to minimize harm, you'd probably find that like the New York Times would get out of what we would do is we'd take 100 articles. We would then list all of the articles that were reviewed, and they would explain exactly where the journalistic violation was. I'd imagine New York Times would get like a 60%. MSNBC would get probably a 0. They'd probably get like a 1. And I mean on like their news segments, which is all be 0. If it's labeled opinion, then it's there's no worry. If someone says it's an opinion, here's how I feel, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. But like Washington Post, for instance, would probably get like a 13 out of 100. Almost all of their articles are loaded with misleading information, out of context information.
Do they have the fourth estate, the journalistic integrity? What we're supposed to have is the journalist in like China or in Belgium, or do they have it in other countries like that work with the World Economic Forum, places that go to like Germany? Do they have a free press? Is that something that exists in these other countries?
Every one of these countries claims they have a free press,
and ours is supposedly the freest, and we know it's not
Supposedly.
free. Okay, so then the whole world's probably working to.
I would ask some of
corrupt
the conservative journalists at the White House how free the press is right now. I think they would have a different.
Dude, Peter Doocy looks like he's about to crap his pants and because he feels like he's going to get thrown out for making the wrong sound. It's so sad to watch because he's asked legit questions. If he provides a little too much pushback, I've never seen them be like, get out. But they have that authority.
I got to be honest. Like, shout out to Doocy. He's rad. But those meetings are completely pointless.
It's like he's
Completely
afraid.
pointless.
It's
Yeah.
like, but don't you? But I mean,
But
you did mention.
who cares about the opinion of Karine Jean-Pierre?
It's supposed to be the president's
It's
opinion,
not,
and she's
though.
telling us
She's
that's
speaking
what
for the
people care
president.
about. Yeah.
They're so painful to watch.
Yeah,
Those press
they're
conferences.
fake.
Yeah.
It's just they're just wastes of time. Everybody knows. The press conference should literally be the president coming out, and it should be less frequent, but that's what it should be.
Yeah, and maybe
president
even
comes out, you have to
on like a
president.
digital, like you could have him answering 6 people's questions, 6 citizens that got selected to ask a question on Zoom. Doesn't have to be on Zoom. It's some digital platform. It could happen a lot more frequently too. It could happen like an hour a day.
I mean, remember in 2020 how often President Trump came out and he directly spoke to. Could you imagine? Do you remember the last time Biden spoke? I believe you could correct me if I'm wrong. The last time that sticks in my mind that he spoke without his handlers to the press was after Robert Hur's special counsel report And that was when he called the president of Egypt the president of Mexico of some sort while defending his mental acuity. They know that he can't do it. They know his brain is mashed potatoes.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.